If you like to make your NFL games a little bit more interesting, you've come to the right place. It's the Even Money Podcast with Ross Tucker and Steve Fezzik.
Yeah, Vegas, baby. Vegas. It is the Even Money Podcast. We are, of course, presented by DraftKings. DraftKings, the crown is yours. It is Super Bowl week 2025. As a reminder, this show is year-round, okay? We're going to have a show next week and the week after that and the week after that. What do we do next week? Well, number one, we will recap all of the Super Bowl bets that we lay out today. And also, we'll start to look at some of the Super Bowl odds that come out. Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, but they start to come out with Super Bowl odds winners for next year as soon as the game ends. They might even already have them out.
Yeah, they're already out. I just haven't looked at them yet. And exactly right that the Monday after the Super Bowl, I usually break them out and start taking a look. Hate to tie up my money for a year, Ross, over a year. So that's like the limit for even me. Yes.
All right. So here's the deal. But we have a show every week. What's really cool about the off-season shows is that, number one, Steve Fezzik, who most of you already know, I should have introduced him. He's the only two-time winner of the Super Contest at the Westgate. You should check him out on social media at Fezzik Sports, and only at Fezzik Sports, by the way. He'll have multiple, well, at least one, I'll say, at least one bet for you guys every week, year round. So you always are able to get at least one bet. So it might be golf. It's a lot of times basketball. You know, obviously we'll get into horse racing stuff as that goes. But every week, Steve seemingly somehow comes up with at least one bet for you guys on this show year round. The other thing is, in the off-season shows, we're able to get some cool guests on that sort of offer up their philosophies, what works for them, what doesn't work for them. Sometimes Steve will say that's a really good idea. I try to do that as well. Other times, Steve will totally eviscerate the poor guy and make them feel terrible about themselves and their family because they're illogical with the way they go about it. Either way, it's actually very entertaining for me. So I recommend the off-season shows. The other thing is, we'll get to all your email questions. You guys ask a lot of really good email questions that you send to me, ross@rosstucker.com. And if you do it after you've gone ahead and taken advantage of any of our sponsors, like westshorehome.com/Ross, or you send me a picture of drinking Labatt Blue Light, whatever it is, ross@rosstucker.com, you'll go to the top, or if you use the code Ross at DraftKings, of course, you'll go to the top of the email list, and we'll get to your question very, very quickly, which is awesome. Probably should have introduced myself. We're all over the place today. If you can't tell, I don't have an open recording window at Radio Row until 12 Eastern. So I'm doing this show from my hotel room here in New Orleans because I know you guys count on this early Tuesday mornings. So all the other shows I'm doing are from Radio Row. So check out Ross Tucker Football Podcast, all kinds of guests. Steve, I was at Media Night last night. I talked with Landon Dickerson and Nolan Smith and Jawan Taylor and Drew Tranquil and George Karlaftis and Trey Smith and all kinds of guys. And those interviews will be on the Ross Tucker Football Podcast all week. But this show is me and you breaking down our bets for the Super Bowl. Check me out on social media at Ross Tucker NFL. We are at Ross Tucker Pod. As a reminder, you can always watch the show, even when I'm in my hotel room, at youtube.com/Ross Tucker NFL. We also post it live to Twitter X as well, at Ross Tucker Pod. And then a lot of people like to see the bets in black and white from our guy Grades, patreon.com/RT Media. Shout outs to Taylor Gerald and Gerald Long. I think those might be the last two shout outs I give for the 2024 football season. All right, Steve, before we go too far, I did want to recap our bets from last week. You placed two official 2-unit bets last week. You had the Chiefs team total over 24.5, and you had the second half over 24. Talk to me, because I haven't looked, about where the line movement has been for those two. Did you get any value for our listeners in going ahead and going with those last week? And or has it changed at all?
Yeah, so Kansas City team total is still 24 and a half, but a little extra vig on the over. So we laid minus $1.10. So that's good. The money has been coming in on the second half scoring versus the first half scoring. And so, of course, the second half total has been slowly leaking up to 24 and a half. Now, this is interesting. And we played over 24. Ross, the game total, though, has been leaking downward. There are some 48 and a halves and some 49s in the market. I don't expect that will continue. I think as we go into the weekend of the Super Bowl, who is the public going to bet in this game? They're going to bet the over. So if you like the over in this game, I would look to play it now. If you like the under, I would wait until 5 minutes before game time.
Why do you think the total's been going down, Steve?
I think it's a matter of, if you look at the pure stats on these teams, the Eagles are an under team that, just from a yards per play perspective, they give up less than 5 yards per play. League average is around 5.4. And the Eagles are an above average offense, but their defense is like best in the league. Whereas if you look at Kansas City, yes, they put points on the scoreboard, but they are unimpressive from a yards per play perspective. In fact, they're below average, Ross. They only average like 5.1 yards per play. So if you look at the pure stats for these teams, there's no way you can get to 50 for a total.
Interesting. But yet you like the second half over. I didn't hear you. Where are those numbers right now? The Chiefs team total and the second half total.
Chiefs team total is right around 25. Second half total is right, I'll call it 24.4, meaning there's still a few 24s left, but it's really gotten up to 24 and a half.
Okay, so you've essentially already gotten us a half a point of value there with saying Chiefs team total over 24.5 and second half over 24 last week.
Yes, and I expect those are going to get bet even more in the coming days. They're going to be very popular plays with the public and the wise guys. So I wanted to get in front of both.
For the game, the Chiefs are laying 1.5, and as you referenced,
Catching 1.5, plus 1.5.
No,
Oh no, I'm losing my mind. I thought
yeah. Now the Chiefs are laying 1.5. The
yes.
total is, I'm literally looking at it on DraftKings right now, Steve.
5 a.m. for us. I just got up. I'm me bad.
I know. The total is 48.5, which you referenced. Do we have any plays from either one of us? I like desperately want to tease the Eagles up to 7.5, Steve, but there's only one game. There's no way to tease it. Can you ever what about if we tease the Eagles up to plus 7.5 and then tease the total up to 54.5 and took the under? Can you do that?
Oh, you're allowed to, but we can't do it. Here's why. Because there's going to be alternative totals where they give you an extra 6 points or they take away 6 points in the marketplace. And if you play an alternative total, essentially make it a teaser, you're going to get that like at minus 220. So think about this. When you tease a two-team teaser, warning, math, 6-point teaser, you're laying minus 280 on each leg. So, of course, we love the Eagles teaser, but the dance partner is no good, Ross. The dance partner, you should be laying like minus 220 on, and you're laying minus 280. It's just too expensive. The only exception to the rule is there are a few books that somehow will let you put you tease the Eagles plus 1.5 up to plus 7.5 with an open spot, and you have to wait till August. You got to wait for football season to start again to close it. So essentially, no, you can't be teasing Philly.
Got it. Okay. Do you have any straight bets on either one of those lines? I do not. I guess I would say, I know we're going to get into the props then, and that's going to be the majority of the conversation. I should say, I would love if there was another team to tease it with. I would watch the game. I would drink Labatt Blue Lights with my friends, live life to the power of we. Although I'm actually going to the game, Steve. I don't know if I told you that. Always enjoy responsibly. Beer, Labatt USA, Buffalo, New York. I would love to tease the Eagles. Can't do it. I think the line is right. I think for the Eagles to win, let me ask you this, Steve. This is a good question. I really think for the Eagles to win, they have to win by 2 scores or they have to be up by 2 scores late. I think that's a distinct possibility. I feel like if it's a 1 score game, you got the first ballot Hall of Fame quarterback in Mahomes, first ballot Hall of Fame coach in Andy Reid. Is there any way I can try to leverage that if the Eagles win, it's by 2 scores?
Sure, you could play an alternative bet on the Eagles -6.5, -9.5. I don't like those bets, and the reason being, Ross, is that I call that the bid-ask differential is so high on them that if you want to play Kansas City, for instance, +6.5, you're paying a really high vig, but the other side on the Philly side, the -6.5, you're not getting rewarded enough. So I basically just ignore those. I will say this prediction on the line move. I don't think you're going to do better than Philly at best at +2. And even I think the +1 ads are going to get taken out. The pros are going to have the Eagles as the better team. I've got the Eagles power rated as the better team. Doesn't mean I like the Eagles in this game, but we've seen money move against Kansas City. We saw it last week with Buffalo. So think about this. Let me ask you, Ross, who's better, Philly or Buffalo?
Philly for sure, I feel.
All right, freeze it. Philly for sure. Not even close. Last week, Buffalo on the road at Kansas City in Arrowhead, close pick 'em. Given that, how the heck can Philly on a neutral site not be the favored team? Thus, Philly +1.5 is, if you're going to make a bet and want closing line value, that's the bet to make.
Wow. That's a really good point. I forgot what the line was in that Bills Chiefs game. That is a really good point, Steve. All right, do you have any I do not have any bets on either one of those, unfortunately. Do you have any bets on either? I will lean Philly getting the 1.5. And I don't even have anything on the total. Do you have anything, Steve?
I will lean Philly as well, Ross. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to bet against Mahomes. I think there's better ways to bet on Philly in the props, and we will get to those shortly. Yes.
Okay. Well, let's do it, Steve. Let's get to the prop bets. Where would you like to start? Well, why don't we start with this? I know you say it every year, and I know we got a lot of loyal listeners, but the specialty props, the Gatorade color, the national anthem length. I know you have a spiel you give every year. I want to give you that opportunity.
Yeah, predetermined events like the national anthem. There's guys that will go into the rehearsals with their stopwatches and they'll know how long that national anthem is. And so follow the money. Whatever direction the money is being bet, if the anthem was at 2 minutes, 5 seconds, and it gets bet down to 2 minutes, 3 seconds, as sure as the sun comes up tomorrow, it's going to be right around 2 minutes and 3 seconds. So whatever, if the Gatorade color on purple is 6-1 and it closes even money, you know what? It's probably going to be purple. So I don't personally bet predetermined stuff because I don't have a dude in there recording during the national anthem rehearsals, but that's how people beat it.
Steve, I got the best bet of the game, and it is that West Shore Home is making home remodeling easier and more flexible than ever. The spring will be here before you know it. You can do a new project and get 2 full years of no payments and no interest. Plus, save $3,000 on all shower and bath projects. They're also offering $200 off per window for window projects and 15% off all entry doors. Volume discounts also available. Take advantage of these great savings. Plus, get 2 years of no payments and no interest. check out westshorehome.com/Ross to save an extra $500 exclusive to my listeners. I just realized this is also an amazing Valentine's Day gift. Even just having the guys come in and give you the free estimate, your wife will be like, "Wow, honey, you might get us a new shower or new bath or new whole bath remodel or doors or windows." Love it. westshorehome.com/Ross. Well, we're finally here. Super Bowl 59. My friends at Smirnoff have been advertising on the show all season. You already know they're our official vodka partner of the NFL. You already know that I love how affordable it is. They're the world's #1 vodka. You don't have to break the bank. They call that being Smirnoff extraordinary. This is the week the NFL legend and Super Bowl champ Vernon Davis is dropping those amazing hand-picked items for just $12.99. Head over to SmirnoffDrops.com to check out those upcoming drops and check out these Smirnoff extraordinary items. Go quick, they won't last long. Please drink responsibly. Smirnoff number 21 vodka, distilled from grain, 40% alcohol by volume. Smirnoff Company, New York, New York. Please, pricing is at the sole discretion of the retailer and may vary by state. Please not share with anyone under legal drinking age. Smirnoff, we do game days. The only thing better than game day predictions are the foods that come with them. Introducing Tums Fantasy Foodball Pool, brought to you by Tums, America's #1 antacid brand, and DraftKings. Turn football into foodball by building your best game day plate for a shot at winning a share of $40,000 in cash prizes. Join the Tums foodball action during this playoff season's most heartburn-inducing time. Visit DraftKings.com/Tums foodball now through February 9th to enter for free and select your game day plate before the start of each playoff round. Age and eligibility restrictions apply. Void where prohibited. See terms at DraftKings.com/Tums foodball. Don't let heartburn keep you on the sidelines. Try Tums Chewy Bites with a tasty outer shell and soft center for fast relief of heartburn, acid indigestion, and upset stomach. Check out Tums Gummy Bites, featuring a soft and easy-to-chew format for fast relief of occasional heartburn, acid indigestion, sour stomach, and upset stomach. Both available at Amazon, Target, and other major retailers nationwide. Be sure to follow Tums at Tums Official on Instagram and TikTok. Why don't you just see when the line starts to move and jump in?
That I do, I have bet. And if there's a book that's slow to move, I absolutely will just trust the movement at the books and go ahead and fire into a stale line with books. I do that every year.
Okay. What props are you specifically looking at, Steve, that you really like?
So I had an epiphany just last night, Ross. I was thinking about this. The Eagles are better statistically. They're probably going to win the stats. I'm not confident they're going to win the game. You mentioned it. If the Eagles aren't up by 2 scores, hey, Kansas City 17 straight close game wins, 1-score wins. So let's take the scoreboard out of it. Let's just bet the Eagles in the stats. Well, how do I do that? Well, I'm going to pick the guys that I think are bet on guys for the Eagles. And Hurts is a little bit compromised with his knee, but he looks good throwing the ball. So if he's going to run the ball less, throw the ball more. And point of emphasis, Kansas City probably to stop the rush. The Eagles only throw the ball to 3 guys. So I'm going to bet on 2 of them. So I'm going to go A.J. Brown over 70.5. Looked great in the conference championship. And I'm going to play Goddard over 4.5 catches, where he just got targeted like crazy in the prior game. And Smith's the only other guy they throw to, and he hasn't been getting that much usage. So when you're only throwing to 3 guys, they don't throw to their backs. Nobody else is catching any passes. Hurts isn't running under pressure because his knee is compromised. It's so logical to me, if I think the Eagles are going to get a bunch of yards, which I do, to bet on Brown and Goddard.
Got it. Okay. That makes sense. Any bets on the other side with the Chiefs? And just so we know for clarity and for grades, are those both 2-unit bets, Steve?
Yes, 2 units on each one of those. Brown over 70.5, Goddard over 4.5 catches.
Got it. Okay. What about on the other side with the Chiefs?
So I don't have any official plays on the Chiefs because when I bet against players, I like to bet them on Super Bowl Sunday right at post because the public loves to bet players over. Same sort of thing. I think the Chiefs They might win the game, but I don't think they're going to put up a whole lot of yards. And so, because of that, Kelsey is an obvious fade. He disappeared last week. I know he's going to get a week off, and that could help him. But let's face it, dude is slow. Dude is still agile. Dude can still break tackles, but it would shock me if he had like anything close to an 80-yard game in this game. So right now he's sitting at like 63 yards. I think we're going to get a little bit of a higher number. So strong lean at the current number, Kelsey under the 63 yards.
Ooh, even though Zach Ertz in the NFC Championship game, Steve, Zach Ertz had 11 catches for over 100 yards. You're still going to go under on Travis Kelsey.
Yes, because I think Kelsey is absolutely a shell of himself, even though he looked great against Houston.
I feel like, Steve, you're being very reactionary. You know, in the NFC Championship game, you had AJ Brown under his yardage, and now you're flipping it to over. For Travis Kelsey, he had that huge game against the Texans. Now you're going the other way. You know how you just said the whole deal with, okay, let's look at the Bills game. And in the Bills game, it was pick 'em. So why would the Eagles be underdogs on a neutral site? That doesn't make sense. I feel like some of your bets today, you're doing that same thing. You're flipping illogically based on one recent result.
Well, AJ Brown's easy because AJ Brown was injured. So he was a no-show in back-to-back playoff games where he got like he got targeted like three times in both the first two playoff games. And then all of a sudden he showed up healthy in the last game, and now he's had 2 weeks off. So I would make the case that his numbers, that the bookmakers are making a reaction to the first two playoff games, and they're still dealing them too low. All right. So on the Kelsey side, you bring up good points. Perhaps I am overreacting to the fact that he was, had such a poor game. And, frankly, he's had a poor year, especially early in the year. We will see. The extra week off might make the difference. It's a good matchup for him. I just think that push come to shove, Mahomes, it's very hard to determine, is he going to go to Hollywood Brown? Is he going to go to Worthy? He's got a lot of guys he can spread the ball around to. And when you have a bunch of guys you can throw the ball to, it's hard to get 70 reception yards. By contrast, the Eagles are only going to throw the ball to three guys. Their backs don't catch passes, and they don't throw to anybody else. So, I mean, if Hurts is going to throw for 210, I mean, who's going to get the yardage if AJ Brown doesn't?
Good points. So, the one I was most excited about, or the two I was most excited about, was the rushing attempts over under. Patrick Mahomes is at 5.5. Jalen Hurts is at 9.5. Man, that seems like a high number, Steve. I still feel like I would lean over on both of those, but I don't know if I'm wimping out or what. I don't know if I can pull the trigger all the way on either one of those. I love taking like Josh Allen in the AFC Championship game. I love quarterback rushing attempts over in gotta have it situations. It's the Super Bowl. I still tend to lean over for both, but I don't know if I can pull the trigger and actually place units. What are your thoughts on Mahomes? His total for rushing attempts is 5.5, and Hurts, his total for rushing attempts is 9.5. That was usually my go-to for props, but I'm a little bit gun shy.
Now, here's an example where there's two schools of thought. We talk about overreacting, right? So Mahomes, during the regular season, did not have any games. 0 games with 7 carries. 0. Then he's 2-0 to 7+ carries in the playoffs. So are we overreacting to 2 data points? Or, like you said, has things fundamentally changed for Mahomes like they have for AJ Brown, just in the last couple of weeks? And I would argue, yes, things have fundamentally changed. Look at that, the goal line run from the 10, where absolutely Mahomes, it's a designed run. He doesn't have any designed runs during the regular season. So because of that, I could only look over the 5.5 for Mahomes. I just can't do it though for the other quarterback. I just think he's compromised. That knee doesn't look right to me, although it isn't impacting his throwing at all. And so because of that, I don't think Hurts is going to get 10 carries.
Would you lean under? Would you go under?
I would lean under to rush yards just because I don't see him being able to get a long run as slow as he looked versus his normal self.
It's a good point too. I mean, he could have 3 or 4 or 5 tush pushes. So I think the way I look at it, the yardage over under for Hurts, it's 36.5. For Mahomes, it's 29.5. I should mention, by the way, Steve, before I forget, John Daigle and I on the Fantasy Feast podcast last week and this week, we went over every single prop bet on every single guy. So we started with the Chiefs or the Eagles. I can't remember which one we did last week. And then we did the other team that's going to be posted tomorrow. But we went through every passing prop, every rushing prop, every receiving prop for every guy. So if you're really into the prop bets, I would encourage you guys to check out the Fantasy Feast podcast this week with myself and John Daigle. Either just listen to it or youtube.com/Ross Tucker NFL. Anything on the yardage. Saquon's at 112.5, but in particular, those quarterbacks, Jalen Hurts, 36.5, Mahomes, 29.5. I kind of feel like Mahomes is going to get more than 30 yards rushing.
Yeah, and then he might give it back on a couple lean downs at the end of the game if they win. I think the number's right. At post, I'm going to play I'm going to play Hurts under and Barkley under at post because I think I'll get inflated numbers from the public betting them up, and maybe the public doesn't bet them up. And if they don't, I'm not going to bet it because let's face it, Saquon's going to get a whole bunch of carries. So really, what this bet is does he break that 60-yard run? Does he have that long run of more than 25 yards? That's, in my opinion, that's the handicap on whether he gets to 120 yards.
That's interesting because I thought you just said earlier you're going to bet a lot of the Eagles statistics over because they're the better statistical team. Now you say there's a couple unders you might look at.
Yeah, well, just because my basic strategy in a Super Bowl is to take the superstars and the biggest name guys and play them under right before kickoff. That's what I do pretty much for everybody. So I'm still gonna, I might not get there for Hurts, but I think Hurts' knee is compromised, so that's why I want to play him. And I just think Barkley is like the obvious public bet. I think the public with both fists is going to overbet him over, and he's already at a sky high number. Being expected to get not just 100 yards, but over 110.
Love, love, love every time doing this show all year with my guy, Steve Fezzik. Certainly check him out on social media at Fezzik Sports. Reminder, we'll be doing this all year round. There's any time that the season win totals come out, Steve and I jump on it right away. We do a lot of bets on the draft. It's an awesome show. Make sure you're checking us out all off season long. I'm at Ross Tucker NFL. We are at Ross Tucker Pod. Other than that, man, it's been a great ride all year. Next week, we'll recap it. Hopefully, we finish in the black. I don't have any official bets, which means I'm lame, but I gave you the ones I lean towards for sure. Other than that, good luck, everybody. Hope you guys win some money.
Thanks for tuning in to Even Money. Make sure to also check out the Ross Tucker Football Podcast, Fantasy Feast, and College Draft, all on the DraftKings Network, YouTube, or subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform.